All right, welcome in everybody. This is the first Wednesday of the month. It is November of 2025, and our topic today is creating new pathways for talent and workforce development. We have special guests with us today. If this is your first time joining us, my name is Deborah Jeffries. I am your hostess, as it were. I work with HR Answers, and we've been hosting the HR Lunch Bunch now for almost 2 decades. And again, if it's the first Wednesday of the month and it's noontime, it's HR Lunch Bunch. And with our topic today, we have Natalie Miller and we have Emily Yaw with us from Apprenti. I will allow them the opportunity to provide a little bit more detail, but I invited them to join us because one, I've known Natalie. I don't even know how long, Natalie. It's been decades. We go back a ways in terms of our career. And I asked her to join us because sometimes HR Answers is not the expert on all things HR, but we do have a fair amount of knowledge. And when we don't know something or we think that something is germane to the HR environment, to the profession, we want to bring it to you. And I think there are a couple of things today that will be valuable to you and your workforce, your workplace, your team in HR. But I also think there's going to be something or two you don't know and you need to know. And I'm just going to leave that little dangling carrot. Now, I have my information up there on the screen for you in case you want to reach out and connect. We do record the program. I will send out Natalie's PowerPoint post program. So, those of you who are here with me live, you always get that. The recording will be usually sent out about 24 to 48 hours after the program for those of you who have registered. We had over 35 people register for today's program, so we know if that you've missed it, you do like to listen. Maybe while you're vacuuming or while you're driving in the car, whatever it is that you're up to. So, first of all, I'm glad that you're here. Second of all, we do like to have a discussion. And let's just be clear for clarity. Discussion means we talk. We talk to each other. So the chat box is open for you to be able to use. You can unmute yourself. I have prepped Natalie to make sure she drives a discussion with all of you. So again, have your cameras on, have those microphones ready. Feel free to ask questions because this is your time. We typically wrap up around 1 o'clock, but that also means that we might turn off the recording and hang out for a little while with additional questions if you like to. It's completely up to you. So, Natalie, Emily, the floor is yours. I will stop my share so that you can have yours. And I just want to welcome everybody here with us today because this is nice to see all of you. And I will kind of man the chat box also to see if there's any questions that come in that are not necessarily seen by you. So
Great.
there you go, my friend. It's all
Awesome.
you.
Okay, is everybody seeing my screen that has two people sitting at a table? Thumbs up. I love it. Okay, the interaction has started. Um, Deborah, you're amazing. I want to say thank you for asking me and Apprenti and Emily to join you. When we had this conversation, we talked about, you just said, how can I help? And this is wonderful to have a friend who gets it, who knows the relationship of referrals. Before I came here to Apprenti 3.5 years ago, we referred business to one another when I was at another company. So you are someone who I know if you aren't a client of HR Answers, you should talk to Deb. Not that this is a commercial, but you should. And her team, they're amazing. I want to start our session today with a story to kind of illustrate a point about what a registered apprenticeship is. So, about 17 years ago, a woman named Lauren was a stay at home mom, and she was busy balancing her household and her volunteer duties out in the community when she decided to re enter the workforce. She realized it wasn't as easy as just dusting off your resume, getting out into the community, and talking to people. And a turning point came when she went to a meeting, a workforce development meeting, and she heard about Apprenti. And she thought, well, this is interesting. She had a background, she had a degree, she actually had a master's, but wanted to get into something in the tech space. And she's like, why not give it a shot? Got through our assessment. I'm going to talk you through this. And then she was placed with an organization called Comtech, where she had really learned how to become a software developer, which included SQL, Power BI, and other IT essentials. And now she is working out Warehouser as a tactical workflow. I have to read this tactical workflow planning manager, and she is leading a team. She oversees everything from software licensing to new future development. And I have the extreme pleasure of getting to work with Miss Lauren when now she is actually the chair for our Washington Committee for Apprenticeship. So this is the committee that we work with labor and industries in Washington. Her leadership is really making sure that we are compliant with our program there and providing advice and support. She is like this crowning achievement of someone that when I think of the 6,000 people that we've worked with at Apprenti, and I'm going to talk through how many apprentices there are out in the world, how many degrees there are out in the world, and that the design of what I'm talking about is registered apprenticeship. And the idea is that it's another workforce solution, as the name implies. So we are going to have some interactive parts to our session. This is me. You're going to have my contact information. I like that Deb and I both have red blazers in our picture because I think it's a good color. So, and just for the record, I noticed that if you did not. So, when I say registered apprenticeship, what comes to mind? So, this is what I want you to do is we're not doing the poll just yet. We're going to do a word cloud. Is this one, Emily? Where we're going to be asking people to write in chat when you think of registered apprenticeship. We can take down that poll and let's put it in the chat. So when you heard me say registered apprenticeship, what was that? What came to mind? And I'm going to pull up the chat if I can. Here. I don't know if I can see it from here, you guys. So Emily or Deb, what's coming up in the chat?
I have hands-on
Okay.
as words
Okay.
so far. Career pathway.
Okay. I'm going to stop sharing for a second. Try this again. Hang on. Keep going.
If I had more to share with you, I would.
Good answer. I love it. Honest.
Um,
Honest.
let's see. With the state for labor union apprenticeship, so kind of a structure
Okay.
similar to let's see, wait, let me start again. Registered with the state for section trade licenses.
Yep.
The structure of a labor union apprenticeship.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm in the electrical field, so I think of trade apprenticeship.
Great. Love it.
Registered trade.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and when I think of apprenticeships, I think of like pre it's a job, but it's like pre-formal. Like you have to do some training before you get
Yep.
to be official. That's
Yep.
what I think about, like plumbers and electricians and
Mm-hmm.
maybe certain kind of other kind of construction related, but it can be all kinds of things. Someone else put in like a internship of sorts.
Mm-hmm. We're going to talk about the difference between internship and apprenticeship actually too today, because they're very complementary workforce development and talent development. So yes, I think to all of the above. Here's what I think of. Here's what you all thought of. People that are typically in construction, skilled trades. We're starting to see, electricians, plumbers. I always think of when I first started hearing about apprenticeship years and years ago, I always pictured the Portland General Electric line workers when the snowpocalypse hits and they're out trying to restore the power so our heat's on. That's what comes to mind for me, right? And those are apprenticeships too. And the same model is so, and I'm going to talk about what the model is, but really thinking today about kind of stepping outside of those skilled trades and thinking about registered apprenticeship as a talent pathway for your organization to look at where do we start, where are we seeing kind of talent shortages? How are those talent shortages coming into, it could be now, it could be in the future. Are there places where necessarily degree requirements maybe aren't needed? I think in the last 5 or 6 years, we've seen a little shift, not a lit, but not a little, but a lot of shift in terms of thinking about skills first hiring, thinking about competency hiring, thinking about where those transferable skills happen. I'm sure some of you have, I always had this in my mind of attitude is trainable when I hired people. They may not necessarily have the exact background that I'm looking for, but if they come to the table with a wonderful attitude and wanting to learn, eager, it's okay to make mistakes, we can train, right? So registered apprenticeship doesn't necessarily just sit in the skilled trades anymore. And so we at Apprenti, and I'm going to talk a little bit about how we operate, just know that there are other apprentices out there. There's also Bureau of Labor and Industries. There's also some workforce boards that can help with this. And the model is very similar. And we actually here at Apprenti partner with all of those organizations, believe it or not. And so we really have seen that when we look at apprenticeships, you can see here, these are the areas that we look at and that we specialize in. So information technologies, and again, this isn't industry, these are careers, and then human resources. So how many of you are part of the Society for Human Resource Management? Raise your hand. Good. So we actually have a partnership with the SHRM Foundation I'm going to share with you. And then also life sciences and healthcare, and then advanced manufacturing. But there's also, I found out there's the first CPA registered apprenticeship. Imagine that. And again, there's so many opportunities for what this can look like. Here are some of the occupations that we support so you can see the breadth. I do this not as an advertisement, but mostly just so you can see it can be everything from a business analyst, a data analyst, an AI associate. That's a new occupation that we've created. It's the first in the United States. There's also going to be others. There's HR, there's marketing, there's sourcing recruiters. There's all kinds of things that can be apprenticeable. And so the kind of common theme among all of registered apprenticeships are these 7 components. And what that really is it's industry led, meaning that an industry and or organization has said, this is something I want, this is an occupation I want to create an apprenticeship for. That here are the skills. We've looked at the work processes. So if an employer, if you were to come to me and say, I want to create a new apprenticeship, we look at work processes, we look at job descriptions. You're already doing this in your daily work, probably already, in looking at when you update job descriptions, what is the work that someone's doing? How are they interfacing within the organization? Who are their external customers? What are the technical skills that need to be a part of the job? And what are the softer skills, or I call durable skills, that need to be created, that it's paid. So this isn't a volunteer effort. This isn't a place where someone's coming in to get just a little experience and then leave. The idea is that the apprentice will go through this program and then be hired into the organization in that role. And in the apprenticeship speak, it's called a journey worker, but it's just the professional level outside of that. So you're in a cybersecurity analyst apprenticeship, and then you are a cybersecurity analyst. That there's on-the-job training and mentorship, so that the individual is working with someone who is in that career or has that knowledge. After, and depending on how the structure, there is actual classroom instruction as well. So that classroom instruction in some of our apprenticeships in technology is upfront. So it's intensive 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. In our registered apprenticeship for HR, looks a little different. In construction and trades, it's very different, where it's over the course of 3-5 years, and it's 2 to 3 days a week in the classroom, 2 to 3 days a week working on the job as an apprentice. And the EEO part of it, we have to put this up, and the health and the quality and safety, those things we assume employers are already doing, that these are parts of your organization already, but it's just something we have to say because it's part of our standards. And then at the end, the individual will receive a credential. And that credential usually is through the US Department of Labor, or it could be from the state of Oregon or state of Washington, depending on where we register them. I'm going to pause before we go on. Any questions about the structure? Anything in the chat? No? Okay.
Not as of yet. Do
Hey,
you ever
everybody. Oh, go
do you
ahead.
ever find that the EEO and the quality and safety like aren't there or aren't referenced,
Mm-mm.
lacking?
No, no.
No?
I think we as we start to step into as we stepped into life sciences and healthcare, they're so regulated that it is, we haven't discovered that. In the advanced manufacturing, again, no. And in, I think, some of our environments where we've had like IT support professionals that are like installing things and picking up things and moving things around, that may have been a question that we ask. But again, we assume, because there's apprenticeship that we are supporting, which is the compliance side of apprenticeship, and then there's the employment side. Most of the safety and quality are things like, are you doing an anti-discrimination, anti-harassment, typical training that if you don't have in place, HR answers can provide.
Well,
But I'm just kidding. But that's usually what it's about. It's health and safety, it's reporting, it's that we're, especially for apprentices, because it is a learn to earn model and they're making less money than they would, like if their cybersecurity analyst makes 100,000, they're making 70. We don't want there to be any advantages or any harassment or any disparity, if that makes any sense. And they're,
absolutely.
yeah, and we have the reporting mechanism within our team to do that if there is something. And then also if it's an employment side, then they go and talk to their employer and their HR business partner or their manager. It's a great question. Yeah. Okay, so now we're gonna, this is the interactive session or part of the session. Now we're gonna do a poll. So how many apprentices do you think there are in the United States? And Emily's gonna put up our poll.
Yes, our poll should still be active. If you
Okay.
didn't put anything in for what you envision for registered apprenticeship, you'll have to get to this question. But spoiler, those of you who have you're incorrect. And I apologize if you can hear my dog snoring in the background. It is her nap time.
The joys of working at home. My dog is named Marvin. He usually sleeps, but it's always when I'm doing something like this that he decides it's time to go do something. So you know how it is, but we took care of that beforehand. How is the poll looking?
It looks like people are answering. Now, I
Good.
personally I don't have the poll popping up, but it looks like other people do, but I'm not sure if everybody is seeing it. Um, so Liz
Oops.
says she exited the box earlier. See, I think I did too, because
Okay.
you
Oh,
said
yeah.
we're not doing that one, and so I
Okay.
exited out too. So that might be why we're not seeing it, Liz.
Well,
Okay. Well,
then
here
I will copy and paste.
we have the technology. This is why Emily is here. She helps with all of these wonderful things.
Thank you,
Well,
Shauna. I
Shauna,
wasn't sure.
I clicked on it and that's why I can see it, but I can't vote.
You
I don't
can't.
have the
Oh, interesting.
I
Okay.
can't vote. I can see it, but I can't vote.
So Emily, you're setting it up again. Good. Okay.
Yeah, I just set it
Sure.
there. I don't want to end it and then restart it in case it gets rid of everyone who's already answered, because a lot of
Okay.
you already have.
So our choices are 220,000, 226,000, 696,000, 384,000, or 974,000. If you weren't able to poll, you can either come off mute and say what you think, or you can put it in the chat. And then we're going to give it another couple seconds. Emily, so let me know when we're done. And how are we looking? So in our slide deck, I'll send out a list or a link to this that will be, this is actually data that we got from apprenticeship.gov, which is the US Department of Labor. And there is, you can actually look and see what registered apprenticeships are in various states and how many registered apprenticeships are in each state. We want this to be more, but should I reveal the correct answer? Has everybody given their, okay. So the real answer, the correct answer is 696,205. Does that seem like a lot or not enough?
Well, considering that it appears, and Emily, you can see the ultimate answers, but it doesn't appear anybody picked that answer.
Nope. But two
Okay,
of you
so
did
we're
think it was
learning.
more.
We're learning together. That's why we're here. Remember, Deb said we're learning, and that's why we're here. So if you think about that, we have 350 million people in the United States. 696,205 is really not that many. And of that, most of them are construction trades. So in the last 10 years, and we see this now, we see that registered apprenticeship is really being embraced as a talent development tool because it creates opportunity for individuals, but also for the employer much, much, much faster than waiting for degree programs. And also with the way technology and the way things are shifting, education has to keep up. And this is a wonderful opportunity from the employer standpoint. From the individual standpoint, people who have gone through our program have said, I never knew I could do this. I never knew that this was an opportunity for me to step into something without getting a 4-year degree that just wasn't feasible for whatever reason. So if those of us in the registered apprenticeship biz, we've always sort of had this like, let's get to at least 2% of the population, which is really 4.5 million people, then that's really where the tipping point is starting. So those of us that are in the registered apprenticeship game, and I know some of you are, I see some familiar names on here, and I know some of you are, this has been the thing, this has been our evangelism of like, how can we create registered apprenticeship? And so in the 10 years that we've been around, our organization has really started, and this is what you'll see with other registered apprenticeship intermediaries, with other organizations, that they started in one space and then evolved into another. So we started in the state of Washington. We were part of the Technology Industry Association, and now we've expanded to all 50 states. We've worked with 350 employers, over 6,500 apprentices. 1,500 of those are incumbent workers. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how this can be used for an internal mobility tool as well. It's not just about creating that new talent. And part of our work, and when you work with intermediaries, workforce boards, the Bureau of Labor and Industry, other organizations, there's funding and support that's available you might not know of, that is there to support the learning of the individual, so the support to the individual, but also there's support to you as the organization and incentives that are available, whether it's in the state of Oregon, whether it's federally, there's also private as well. So I'm going to talk through some of that today around like, where does this work? How do you find this out? And part of our work at Apprenti also, if you're interested in starting your own apprenticeship program, we can help you. We can also, and we partner and collaborate with so many different government agencies and other programs that it's really about making sure that you're getting what you need to create the workforce solution that you need. So our job is really about creating this bridge, right? About where does the employer need to go and where are individuals that need to be in these programs. Our focus has been on working with women, untapped talent, people of color, veterans, and also people with disabilities. And anyone can apply. Let me be very clear about that. Anybody can apply to this program. There is no requirements other than you have to be 18 years of age. We're not a youth apprenticeship program. There are fabulous youth apprenticeship programs that are out there and pre-apprenticeship programs that if you're interested in something like this, we'll spend some time, we can get you connected. So how the process works typically, and this is, I'm just showing this to you so that you can see how you might structure your own program or how we create our program. We really look for, again, those kind of durable skills in individuals. So we're looking for things that leadership, customer service, a lot of the things you're probably looking for, and really aligning that to what the organization needs. Once this, and again, the apprentice is selected and is by the employer. So whether it's an incumbent employee or whether it's net new, this program can really be designed to kind of upskill. I have a organization here that's an educational service district in Oregon that actually had someone in an IT support professional role that now is stepping into a cybersecurity analyst occupation. So he had been within the company for 3 to 4 years, but they had this new team that was being developed, and they went, wait, this is somebody who could do this job, but we need to do the training. Going back to school is going to take a long time. Apprenticeship was the solve. So everybody involved got what they needed. So that's kind of an example of where you can use this. Any questions about process, about how this could work within your organization? Okay, I'm going to skip this. So when you think about this
So,
data that, oh, sorry, go ahead.
so there was a question that just came in the chat box
Mm-hmm.
um, for like the medical
Mm-hmm.
environment.
Yeah.
How does this kind of work for the medical field? And then there was a follow-up, like roles
Mm-hmm.
specifically for like doctors.
Yes. So I have not seen an apprenticeship for doctor. I have seen them for other specialties, and we actually have, I didn't put it in this, but I'm happy to share this with you. We do have a partnership with MedCerts to create medical and allied health registered apprenticeship. Um, I mean, they're all like pharmacy techs, RNs. Emily, we just had a session this
Yeah.
morning, didn't we?
I was just gonna say, Liz, if you'd like, I'm really happy to add you to the email list. We're gonna send out a recording of a webinar we just did this morning with MedCerts, talking about all the different roles that are apprenticeable within that
You
space.
can just send it out to everybody if that would
Yeah,
be
I'll send it
helpful.
out to everyone. I'll
Yeah.
definitely do that.
Yeah, and it's a new partnership. And so if there is not, again, if there is not we had on that call, we had someone ask about is it a sleep technician? And if there was, so there's things being created all of the time and occupations being created all the time. And depending on, so I'm going to go back. I want to make sure, Liz, I answer your question somewhat. It depends on the state that the individual is in. So I've gotten a lot of questions for down in California because there's different there's different bodies that certify. And so we've had to register those within each state. But it depends on the occupation. So RN is a big one, specialty aspects of RN, and then things like imaging technicians, phlebotomists. So there's a lot that's in the medical space. So I'm happy to connect you with our team that leads that function too as well. Great question. So a question that I get a lot is, so there's the benefit to the organization in terms of their talent and creating talent for their organization. Retention is much higher than in some cases in hiring new college grads, because you're creating an opportunity for that individual who now is, thank you, I'm appreciative, I want to work here. So that retention and engagement. But what surprises a lot of folks is the median age in many registered apprenticeship programs is about this high. So our average age is about 32. Some people say, oh, wow, that's interesting. So this isn't people who are right out of college. Often apprenticeship is a pivot, or not out of college, but out of high school. It can be, it certainly can be. We had a cohort that had our youngest at 18 and the oldest I think was 63 or 64. So we had this really interesting range of people can change and pivot careers all the time. I mean, I'm sure some of you have. And so if there was a registered apprenticeship program and you thought, cybersecurity analyst or, a data analyst or an AI associate or a phlebotomist seems interesting, you can do it too. But really looking at the areas that we focus on is like economic mobility, impact to the community. And I'm going to talk a little bit later about some of the work that we're doing in Washington and Oregon. I saw Deb shared the list, so I prepared some information about what we're doing in the Northwest. I sit in Oregon. I'm in Portland, by the way, so lived here most of my life. So it's really great to be a part of something that has such a deep connection to the community and to individuals. But the real business case, I think, is around what's happening in our workforce. So our workforce, as we all know, is shifting. It has. We have different generations coming in. And I typically don't like to talk about generalizations of different generations because I think that's kind of dangerous in some ways. It's like generalizing between, I don't know, an 18-year-old and a 30-year-old or other generalizations. But there is a shift happening, and that shift is happening pretty fast. And so the workforce dynamic, you're experts. I'm not telling you something you don't already know. The actual numbers within the workforce really isn't changing. It's what that makeup is. And so when we look at where we're at in 2024 versus where we're headed in 2030, you can see here what that shift looks like. We're starting to see that sandwich generation return. I'm a Gen Xer. And so I was, I didn't have kids, but I was helping my friends take care of their kids and take care of my parents. Well, that's going to start to happen with some of our younger generations. We've had that flexibility of working from home and career mobility and thinking differently and doing things differently. And so that's shifting this. And we also have a real interest, people wanting to learn. And how can I accelerate my learning? Again, this can really support the organization in terms of meeting those needs. Are you all seeing some of these things play out in your organization as well? I see a nod from Darcy. Anyone else? Or not seeing it? Maybe it just doesn't exist. So this context setting really kind of helps that. But then there's also this other dynamic pull that I think we're experiencing. Now is probably not a great time to talk about higher education with government shutdown and all the other things that are happening, but we're going to, because there is this thing that has been happening where employers have said we need the education system to be able to catch up. And I've seen that with some of my friends that work in higher education and starting to see how are we really identifying what employers need and going to them and having that inform what we're developing, which is awesome. And so I'm going to talk now a shift. I think somebody brought up at the very beginning, it sounds like an internship. So I want to kind of compare and contrast these things too. So we're going to do another poll. This is where we get to guess, everybody. So how many individuals graduate from college annually in the United States? This is all degree types. And so we're going to have a poll put up.
And for anyone who exited, I'm popping it in the chat so you have all the options.
There you go. Great. So our options are 1,026,100. That's 1. 2 is 7,056,300. 3 is 3,364,000 or 4,711,500.
Can I ask, are you counting associate's degrees as well?
Yes.
Good question. And I was like, and is that in 2024 versus 2020, 2023?
This is 2023 to 2024.
Yes.
I had to look at our reference. See what the year was. We do have data references for you too.
Yes, I'll include those when I PDF the slides for you all.
For those data hounds that are out there, which
I'm just saying it. I'm guessing that the number there's been a major, well, majors, maybe not such a great word. There's been some shifting over the last several years.
Yep. So what's a guess? What do we have? What's in the chat? I'm not able to really see the chat without messing up my being able to see you all.
Well, not so many people are putting numbers in the chat, just a couple of us, but you definitely got one number bigger than the other in your polling so far, which is your 3.3.
Okay.
Let's see, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 of the 16 of us, and you guys are 2 of that, have voted so far. So a couple people are reserving the right not to vote.
That's fine. That's fine. You don't have to.
Democratic society.
This is not everybody has to participate. That's totally cool. It's not required. This is a learning session. You might be eating lunch. That's what's happening. It was in a moment where I was in the kitchen. I had to go get something. Totally cool. So the real answer is 7 million.
Oh.
No, 4,711,500. There we go. Sorry. Me and numbers.
Right. Who answered like I did? Who's the
Raise
other
your
one?
hand.
4.7.
We had 2 others.
There we go. Nice.
Way to go, Shauna.
Okay, good job. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. So yes, so that is a lot of people, right? And yet still there are some employers that are saying to us, we're just not getting, oh, there we go. There's the poll. We're still not getting what we need in terms of the talent, whether it's associates, whether it's bachelors, whether it's higher level degrees. And also being able to see where that shift is happening in terms of need. And I think I always use AI and I know it's a sore subject sometimes, but AI is a piece of that. And we created an AI associate occupation because it needs to be in the organization now. And the organizations that we're talking to are saying we need to have people throughout the organization who are literate, who understand what this is, but then also have the competency to help us develop the tools and resources to get the work done. Okay, well, good job, everybody. We did that poll. Okay. I'm going to stop. I might share. We don't need to share the results. Okay. Stop sharing. There we go. Why can I not stop sharing? I'm going to close this. Is that okay, Emily? Because it's popping up on my screen. There we go. Okay.
Yep, you're good.
Okay. So one question that I get a lot is how is apprenticeship different than internship? And raise your hand either through your reaction or if you're on live. How many of you have an internship program or something like it? Yes? Good. Okay. What are the someone, if you wouldn't mind sharing, what are those internship programs? What occupations? Are they departments? Do you hire from them? Very curious.
We do a largely summer internship program.
Nice.
We have, I think, in some instances had a staff turnover where they went from an intern to a full-time FTE. I think one of our interns this year was in that situation.
Nice.
And we hire into a pool, and then the interns are kind of spread out across the company, I think, based on, skills and other sorts of things.
Oh, okay. Is it rotational? So or are they in that same team for the summer internship?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, summer internships, and I think you all probably, this is going to sound familiar. We get some folks who come in and they're there for a 6-week internship, but they have a 2-week family trip planned.
So they're there for 4.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's some flexibility involved, and often it's young people. So yeah, it tends to be short and non-rotational.
Yeah. We have an intern.
Correct me if I'm wrong on that one. My colleague is on the call. So.
Anyone else want to share? I'm always curious how it works. Like what's been success. And so thank you, Darcy, for sharing that. I appreciate it. Sarah, I see your hand up, but you might just be raising your hand. I don't know if you want to come off mute and share, or if your hand is still just up. Nope, here's just up. Okay.
I think Sarah didn't have a mic,
Sarah.
if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, I think
okay.
Sarah's missing her mic. Sarah said electrical apprenticeships. We partner with a trade school.
Yep.
And the apprenticeship is for 4 years.
Yep. Nice.
So
yeah.
That's a pretty, if I'm not mistaken, that's a pretty standard traditional kind of approach. And I might be overstepping, but I believe that then the employer is kind of sponsoring that individual, and they go to school, they have classes might be like in the evening, or they might be offset. And she's like, yes, Sarah's like, that is correct. And so the goal is to get them to the journeyman level, I believe is the language.
You got it.
And so, but not everybody finishes for any variety of reasons. And then as an employer, you've put all this time and energy, time commitment, kind of dollars into them, and then they don't finish. And so you don't end up with the journeyman at the end of the scenario.
Yeah. That happens. That is very common. I think the 4 years is, especially in electrical and especially in some of the skilled trades, that is a big differentiator, I think, between some of the stuff that we're doing as well. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of safety, a lot of things that are involved in that. Not that there isn't with cybersecurity. It's just different. It's just a different. So our apprenticeships are about 12 to 14 months. And so they have a minimum or to be a registered apprenticeship, just so you know, in general, it has to be a minimum of 144 hours of technical or what's called related RTI or RSI, related supplemental instruction. That's the classroom instruction. So that is either, instructor led. There's sometimes the self-paced, like when I talk about the SHRM the SHRM partnership that we have. And then there's usually it has to have a minimum of 2,000 hours of on-the-job training. So that's any apprenticeship, regardless of if it's electrical, HR, life science, healthcare, IT. So if you're, and so that program, and we have apprentices who will finish the completion of the apprenticeship before those 2,000 hours because they've met the competencies. It's very cool. We like to celebrate that. But employers say, we're at 8 months. Can we hire? Yes, if you think they're ready, let's do it. That's great. So the big differences here, and I've kind of talked through this, is if you think about an internship, as Darcy shared, it's short term. It's usually based on a relationship that you have with a college or a university. And then it really is about giving that kind of work experience and getting them to kind of see what it's all about. We have a sales intern with our team right now, with our regional directors and what we call account managers. And she's getting the full circle. She's been with us. She'll be with us for a year, but she's getting this like full circle of how we engage and educate employers, how we work with them. She probably won't be hired with us, but she might. I mean, we don't know. With an apprenticeship, that is the goal. The goal is that at the end of the apprenticeship, they are hired. So everything is pointing to that. And it does happen in some of the skilled trades where there might be an opportunity someplace else. And so that apprentice moves to a different state because the pay is a little higher or the industry is different and something that's more aligned. And so when we look at retention rates of apprentices versus interns, you see here what that looks like. I have a couple of organizations I work with that do rotational internships. So now you really get the experience of what the business looks like. In apprenticeship, where that can happen is by providing connection points to individuals who are outside of the team. So I'm using cybersecurity analysts today a lot. So maybe they connect with someone in HR. Maybe they're connecting with someone in the operations team to really get a bigger picture of what the organization is about. Any questions about this? Yes, I see a hand.
So I have a question based on Liz's comment in the chat. Her comment was, my husband is a double journeyman, and especially this year has been having trouble with getting enough consistent work with both of the unions due to the lack of work this year in general. So I'm guessing that the double journeyman could be like electrical, like maybe he's even 2 unions or plumbing or whatever it is that he has. My husband works for an organization where it's heating, plumbing, and electrical. And he has some of the same challenges with some of his quote men and women. There isn't enough work to be able to give the hours to some of the folks, and they're making some tough decisions and thinking about what they're going to be doing going forward. So if hours are a thing, one for the apprenticeship in general, two, being able to retain your employees, how might that play a role in what you all are doing or the people who are enrolled in your program? Hours, getting there, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. So our structure is a little different than the union setup. So we are not union. I think I probably should have led with that. This is not union driven. This is employer driven. An employer can have a union. That's fine. I have a county government where their IT team is represented. That's fine. We are agnostic when it comes to that. I think the trades are structured a little differently because of just the makeup of the business that those apprentices are in. It is based on work, but let me say, it is based on the projects that they're working on, whether it's residential, whether it's commercial, whether it's whatever that might look like. Whereas the apprenticeships that we are, with the exception of life science and healthcare, so that's a whole other thing that's kind of can lean into what we're talking about now, are typically Monday through Friday, 9 to, well, there's shift work. So there's always an exception. So it depends, but they're typically going to be full-time roles. So it does become less of an issue. Where it does become an issue, to your point, is if there is a vacation, if there is a family leave that needs to take place. So that happens. And so we really monitor that to make sure that if we need to suspend or put a hold on the apprenticeship for the individual, we can. I think in what Liz's case, the union structure with the business, that's a little bit different because a lot of times those unions are sponsoring the training aspect for those apprentices that then go to the employers. Whereas in our case, the employer is sponsoring the apprenticeship and is sponsoring the training. Does that make sense? I hope that's not too confusing. I try not to get too much in the sausage making when we have this, but sometimes it's helpful. I hope that that makes sense.
Well, you know what's coming to my mind, and I can't speak for Liz directly here. I'm thinking, you know what? I need to let Brian know about this, and then maybe there's an opportunity for, in terms of just kind of like, how are you
Mhm,
doing? Where are you getting? Could there be a
mhm,
different way of being able to think about how things are done? And in some
mhm.
respects, to the traditional approach, it's upsetting the apple cart maybe a little bit.
Yep.
And some people
Mhm,
might not like that, but then is that a
mhm.
quicker path to a process?
Yes.
Because with
Yeah.
some of our, I my impression is with some of our younger folks, they don't like the long journey that it takes to get there. They want to get there faster because they want to make some of those dollars faster for a variety of reasons.
You got it. Yeah. And I think the way that it is, and that's why I'm very careful when I talk about the youth, because we do work within those spaces. And I think we are agnostic when it comes to that. But because this is not sponsored, um, we could have a whole other hour on that. So, but
Well,
it can be a thing. And I think what we also have seen is that there are some organizations. I met a gentleman, and I'll keep it pretty anonymous. I met a gentleman who is in manufacturing and who has created his own non-represented apprenticeship because of that, because he wants to create equity for people, and his impact is in the community that he's in, and he recognizes the people who are going to be hired into his company live in that community. And so when he said, I'm going to create this on my own, I'm going to find I mean, he built it, like he did all of the work for that reason. And it was really about the retention of the employee and the experience of the employee. And again, I'm not trying to say anything bad, but it was something that I'm seeing more of. I think if anybody's in the apprenticeship game on this, oh, you can speak up too and say something, but it has, I've seen that happen.
well, and one of the questions in the chat is, how do you find employers who want to do this? Is there, you talked about the fact that you've got somebody who's working with you now from a marketing standpoint.
Mhm,
What is Apprente doing in this
mhm,
regards, or others? What's been kind of your experience? Because maybe someone is saying, you know, maybe I'm looking at some of
mhm,
my business partners, things that
mhm,
I know, my significant other, friends
mhm,
and family. How are you finding, how does employers say,
mhm.
outside of contacting you guys directly, but the,
Yeah.
the question was, how do you find employer that
Mhm.
wants to do this?
Yeah. I mean, it's conversations like this. And it's also, I mean, that is my job at Apprenti. So everybody knows that is my sole job is identifying and working with employees. That's what I did in my last job. And so we have referral partners that we work with, economic development, workforce boards. I'm doing some interesting work up in Washington with the 29 federally recognized tribes in creating registered apprenticeship within that community. We have our Future Ready Oregon grant here. So we actually can underwrite the cost of the training. Um, but it's talking with employers, and I think it's this conversation of what is apprenticeship, what it isn't, and what it really can be. And so a lot of our business, Emily's on our marketing team. She can tell you all of the things that we are doing. In the time that I've been here in 3.5 years, that engine has, I mean, I don't know what else to say. They're goddesses and gods in my opinion in terms of what they do, because it's also about getting people to really see this as a long-term play, not a short-term play based on where funding was headed. And I think that has been some of the bigger. I was just talking with one of our clients today that we've worked with for a long time. They have a core. It's huge. It's 60 people. That's a lot every year. And she's thinking 3-4 times that. And I'm like, this is a big, big company, by the way. And so when you think of those types of scale, it's getting those employers who see this as like, and we're hiring still 3,500 new college graduates. That could be 2 apprentices and 5 college graduates, or 1 and 1 at a smaller organization. And so I think it's getting organizations to really see that it's not, I don't know, it's not a charity either. This is a workforce solution. This is creating opportunity for people in a very meaningful way. And I think that that has been our biggest hurdle with Apprenti is, and other apprenticeship programs. I mean, I partner with other apprenticeship programs. We're referring people back and forth. That's really what it is. So it's getting that sort of mindset shift, I think, in business and getting. So I'm out speaking at conferences. I have peers across the United States. Our CEO, she's always, I mean, I don't think she sleeps at home half the year. She's gone out talking to places. I mean, I was talking to Shada about going down to the Oregon State Conference. I couldn't go. I was visiting my parents over in Utah. So it's just stuff like that where it's people like you, Deborah, who invite me and others to things like this. That it's really about, because we're a nonprofit, we're not a for-profit organization. Most of the registered apprenticeship programs are not. So
Well, and you said something earlier, I think that you said you had your first client that was doing a CPA as an apprenticeship.
no, I don't have, no, I heard about a new CPA. I was like,
Oh,
wow, that's impressive.
okay.
It's the
Okay.
CPA Association of America or something. I don't know the exact, but it's that organization created their apprenticeship. I was like, that is so smart.
Okay. Okay. Because I know we have a CPA that's on the call today. And because I think one of the things that is true for employers is how are we finding our people? What do we need to be
Mhm.
doing differently than we've done before in terms of traditional? And some of the traditional things aren't working, and
Right.
our basically our in some respects our younger generation isn't
Mhm.
doing what we've all thought of as what we did, how we
Got
did
it.
it, how we got into our
Mhm.
employment. And the answer is, what are the alternatives? What are different ways?
Yeah.
And and this is one of them. And more people need to know about it or have access to it or think about and maybe make some proposals or try it,
Mhm.
beta test it, quote unquote, and see whether or not it can't net some results.
And part of the thing that we're doing is, like in Oregon, before I've even talked to an employer, we have a team that's doing sourcing, right? So because we're doing work I mean, I live in Oregon. I felt like for the first 3.5 years, I was like a consultant that couldn't get a job in her own town, because all of our opportunities were in outside of Oregon. And now it's really I mean, it's a lot of this work of people really understanding. It's an education process, but we're doing sourcing with community-based partners that we have already so that we have a pool. So when we're talking with employers, we can say if it's not somebody internally that you want to upskill and create that opportunity internally, which gosh, that's pretty cool, then we can help with some of that external. And so the finding the apprentices candidly is not the challenge. It's getting
Okay.
the buy-in for employers.
What is
Yeah.
your what do you think is one of your biggest kind of stumbling block pieces with the employers?
Well, there's two things. It will take a lot more time to train these individuals than if I went someplace, if I went to like a university or got an associate's degree. The reality is that you're already doing on the job training.
Right.
and and so you're already doing this. The difference is that now you have someone that might have a little bit more work experience and that has different work experience that they can apply. So think of someone who's been in the military for 10 years or for 5 years. We had an apprentice who was incredible. This is such a funny story, but she was in the Air Force for 10 years and she came out and was like, I'm not going to go back to school. She found this and she is a rock star software developer. So I think employers getting past the bias of what not having a degree in that field is, and managers recognizing you're already doing this training already, and that you're
Mm,
not. That I think is that manager enablement piece is a big part of what our team does when we partner with organizations and that's my background is learning and development. So those of you that have an L&D background, we need to talk because I'd love to be like, how do you do that in your organization? And so that manager enablement is a big part of it. Of how, and so companies see it then as like, ooh, this can be like a leadership development program. And so I'm like, yeah, that it can. It can be a really great way to upskill your managers in terms of some other soft skills too.
okay. And that might actually tie into the question. Shauna, do you want to just unmute and ask your question?
Sure, I can unmute and read it.
There you go.
Does there need to be talent within the organization for the person to apprentice under, as opposed to apprentice or another vendor providing training to fill those gaps?
So we can help, yes, and we've done that. So I actually have partnered with a company that have said, you guys do the technical training, but then there's going to be some place where we're tying into some of the experts that are within the organization. I love it when we can do that. We do have to have it go through kind of a vetting process, if you will, to make sure it just aligns with the apprenticeship. But yes, we have a lot of flexibility with that. Because we have our own Future Skills Institute that does the training. We launched that beginning of last year. And then we also partner with a lot of external organizations. So like NC State, we're partnering with them for one of our AI associate trainings. But then we also have SHRM Foundation for some of our HR as well. So it's really the best of the best is what we're looking for. People who can really be adaptable to. But if you have people internally that can do the work, we would talk through what that would look like. Yeah.
Well, and I think there's
Thank
a
you.
question right there. How many of us, and I know there's several of you who are HR professionals right here, how many of you knew that SHRM had an HR apprenticeship program?
Yeah, that's about the answer.
And has been for like the last 3 years.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah.
Shauna, did you know that before like the last 6 months?
Not
See,
before the last 6 months. So full disclosure, I'm the SHRM Foundation Director for the Oregon SHRM. So I sit on that chair on the state SHRM board. And so as Foundation Director, I'm like prowling around to find things that I can bring to the state council to then disseminate to the regional chapters. And so I did attend a SHRM sponsored
Yep.
webinar on this program with Apprenti a couple weeks ago.
Mhm.
And then
A couple weeks ago.
I knew that
There
Deborah,
was
you were going to host this one today, and Natalie and I are going to connect next week to talk further about how we can make that SHRM,
Mhm.
tap into that SHRM element.
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think that the part that we were part of is like that skills future first. I always get it backwards. Initiative that the SHRM Foundation has. And, the SHRM Foundation founded this 3.5 years ago and then wanted someone to run the sort of operations of it. So we actually have an account manager who works with their employers. Their enterprise team is working with us, and then we're going out. And so you ask how we find employers, it's this type of collaboration and partnership.
Right.
So we are at time.
We definitely are, and I appreciate that in more ways than one. But one of the reasons why I wanted to ask that question is because when I learned, I think it was like February or March of this year that was true. I think Natalie saw my jaw drop to the ground
Yeah.
because I was like, "We have what?
Yep.
I don't know anything about for how long?" And I was
A
like, "Well, then
while.
we definitely need to like do something because I think HR professionals need to know that because that was something that was really unknown to me. And then it's like we're talking, yes, let's get you on the calendar. And then that webinar came out just a few weeks ago and I'm like, now it's starting to hit. Now we're starting to see it and that is a good thing. But
Mhm.
if it can happen in HR, it can happen anywhere and everywhere. And again, how are we communicating? And so bringing it to you guys, taking it out, sharing it, taking it to your chapters, being able to let employers know, being able to ask questions, I think is kind of a big deal. And so I usually close with my little uh, uh, screen last kind of question for you all, which is, and hopefully it's showing, I think it's showing, is so what will you start working on based on this conversation and what you heard today? And is there somebody you're going to share this information with? Who? When? How are you going to share it? Is there something new you can do inside your organization, whether that's policy, a new behavior? Is there something that you can do in terms of a recommendation, something you can offer to somebody somewhere, somehow to do a little different inside? Because I think that this is the beginning of a much larger conversation. And obviously, Apprenti's already been doing that, but this we can take the charge. We can help Natalie and crew out in more ways than one. So we've obviously been asking questions. I want to thank both of you, Emily and Emily, for being here and sharing this information. And again, those of you who are still with us, thank you for joining us today. I really, really appreciate it. Again, HR Lunch Bunch happens on the first Wednesday of every month at noon, unless it's like a holiday or something like that. Because, 4th of July sometimes, well, you might have other plans. Or Christmas doesn't usually, but New Year's could. So our next program will be on December 3rd. We are going to talk about and maybe support and share some ideas around if you are a department of one or you know somebody. We will be sharing and having a discussion around that. Otherwise, thank you for being here. Really appreciate it. Hope you have a wonderful holiday season this month and next month and the one after that, because they all come together. And if we want to hang out and ask some additional questions, we will be here for you. I'm always the last one in the room to make sure everything went just as planned, like that ever happens. But again, we're super glad that you were here. Thank you, Natalie.
Thank you.
Thank you, Emily.
Thank you.
Really, really
Thank you so
appreciate it,
much. It was nice to see everybody and meet some new folks too.
as always. And we've got some people in the chat. They're doing their final goodbyes. Thank you, as always. We will stop the share and stop the recording.
Perfect.
Yes, indeedy.
Thank you.
Thank you so very, very much. We
was a
really
great-
appreciate it.
It was great. I will send you, I will work with Emily and we'll get you the MedCerts recording because that sounded like it might be interesting for people. And then also I'll just send what I've done here. I'm going to take some things out and shorten it, but I'll at least get the information